In the future, there's this huge Egyptian pyramid floating above Earth. Turns out the gods are using humans to keep their divine lineage going. We're in New York City, but not in the present. It's 2095. The city's full of these weird humanoid mutants with artificial organs. There's this crackdown, and a panicked crowd gets whisked away in a flying car to the Eugenics Corporation. They're doing some shady experiments on living beings. Meanwhile, the massive Egyptian pyramid looms overhead. Inside it, the gods Anubis and Bast are laying the smackdown on the sky god Horus for being rebellious. They tell him he's got just 7 days left to see the humanity and the Earth he helped create before they execute him. Horus, who has the head of a falcon, clears his way out of the pyramid. He transforms into a bird and heads down to Earth. Over in New York, Senator Allgood, who's been taking heat for running a medical dictatorship, is gearing up for elections. People are freaked out by the pyramid, thinking it's his fault. But experts say it's actually an alien thing, kind of like the inclusion zone in Central Park, which is a gateway to parallel worlds. Mysterious crimes start popping up all over New York. The authorities think there's a serial killer on the loose and put Inspector Fruba on the case, but it soon becomes clear that the one behind the brutal killings is Horus, who's picking out bodies for a special mission. Now we shift over to the Eugenics Corporation and meet Jill, a pale girl with blue tears. Dr. Elma Turner notices her and decides to use her as a test subject. Jill is scared, having memory issues, and Elma finds out Jill's taking some unknown substance. Her organs are messed up, and she's only about 3 months old biologically. Elma suggests a full examination of Jill's unique body and offers legal help in New York City in exchange. Jill heads into the inclusion zone and meets her mentor, John. She reveals that eugenics had her captured, but Elma saved her and suggested they team up. John, who's an alien near the end of his life, supports her and advises her to adjust to life on Earth. Meanwhile, a cryo prison floating above the city breaks down. Some cryo capsules crash onto a bridge. The police and eugenics personnel show up. In the chaos, the eugenics team takes 2 frozen bodies but misses the third one, the famous revolutionary Nika Paul, who's been in suspended animation for 30 years. His protest messages have been popping up as holograms all over the city, and the authorities have been trying to shut them down. Later that night, the police find Nika's leg on the bridge, and Inspector Fruba starts investigating. The senator is worried about another scandal, thinking someone's trying to sabotage his political career. Horus, in the form of a giant falcon, notices that Nika's unmodified body is just what he needs. He takes control of the injured Nika, moves him to a safe place, and makes a makeshift prosthetic from a piece of rail. Horus tells Nika that he'll be serving him from now on because only his body won't reject Horus's divine essence. Nika realizes he's escaped from prison a year earlier than planned and regrets the accident that cost him his leg. Horus attaches an iron prosthetic to Nika, but he struggles to walk with it. Then Horus takes over Nika's body, guiding him, and suddenly the prosthetic leg works fine. Horus sends Nika into the city while keeping a bit of Nika's consciousness and will. Meanwhile, the senator finds out that the leg belongs to Nika Paul. The sudden release of the revolutionary could mess up his election since Nika knows all about his scandals and alien experiments. So, Nika becomes a target. Nika tries to escape but ends up falling off a skyscraper. The senator is told that Nika has been dealt with, but his body is still missing. The authorities release a terrifying alien hunter, a species thought to be extinct. Jill moves to a hotel for experimental treatment. She samples some food Elma sent her and keeps track of changes in her body in a journal. When she returns to Elma's clinic, she asks why Elma is helping her. Elma says it's just part of her social stance, but Jill admits she likes Elma. Elma then realizes Jill can read thoughts. Horus, still in Nika Paul's body, goes to a bar and tells Nika to wait for Jill. When Jill shows up unexpectedly, Nika, hearing Horus's voice in his head, notices she's attractive. Jill goes into a secret room, puts on a spacesuit, and meets John again. John reveals that for centuries he's been spreading humans across the galaxy. 3 months ago, he found Jill at the center of the invasion and helped her turn from an alien wanderer into a normal person using these mysterious blue pills. Jill heads back to the bar. Nika tries to chat with her, but Jill's not interested. Then Horus takes control of Nika's body and insists that she has to come with him. Jill doesn't question it and follows him. They go to the hotel, and using Nika's body, Horus takes control of Jill. That night, the alien hunter deals with a police officer tailing Nika and grabs his memory chip to find out where Nika is. The next morning, Jill wakes up alone, noticing some black feathers in bed but unable to remember what happened. The hotel manager and a eugenics employee knock on her door, looking for Nika. After checking her documents and the room and finding no Nika, they leave. Jill notices that a wall in her room has disappeared, revealing a door to the bathroom where Nika was hiding. Jill, armed and ready, demands an explanation for what happened. Nika answers her, but then Horus cuts him off. Jill leaves, and Nika comes back to himself. Later, Nika accuses Horus of taking advantage of Jill, but Horus claims she agreed to it, saying the gods have always been benevolent. Horus also warns that next time he won't be so rough with her. Nika is confused by this next time comment, but Horus explains that they need to be intimate with Jill again. Nika refuses and wants to be left alone, but Horus reminds him he won't be able to walk properly without his help. Horus demonstrates how hard it is to walk with the prosthetic and then throws Nika against a wall. Nika realizes he's got no choice. Meanwhile, Jill visits Elma's clinic and talks about her night with Nika. Elma asks if Jill has had similar experiences before, but Jill doesn't seem to remember. Elma thinks Jill's had relationships with men before, but the blue pills she's been taking erased those memories. Elma notices Jill's organs are aligning correctly, and she's becoming more like an ordinary person. Senator Allgood learns where Nika was last seen and with whom. Knowing it won't be easy to catch him, he and his team plan to find Jill. A eugenics employee reports they have Jill's blue tears, which will help the hunter locate her. Jill goes to the Human Museum to figure out what she's turning into. The exhibits blow her mind, and she realizes she's becoming very human-like. Jill returns to the hotel, but then a eugenics vehicle shows up, and she gets abducted. The alien hunter wants to know where Nika is, but Jill says she doesn't know who he's talking about. Suddenly, Horus appears inside the aircraft. He's been watching Jill and saw her abduction. He uses laser beams from his eyes to take out the hunter, destroy the vehicle, and rescue Jill. Horus brings Jill back to the hotel, where Nika is waiting. Horus and Jill go into the bathroom, and once again, Horus turns the door into a wall. Nika is concerned and wants to know what happened. Horus comes out of the wall and explains that Jill went through some really bad stuff, so he erased those memories. Horus says he and Nika need to protect and love Jill, and that she needs to be impregnated. Nika is shocked but realizes he can't fight Horus's will. Jill eventually comes out of the bathroom and is upset to see Nika still there. She notices bruises on her face and thinks Nika hurt her. She asks why he was in suspended animation for 30 years. Nika is surprised she knows this, and she admits she can read thoughts. She figures out that Nika took control of her, but he has no memories of it. Nika suggests they spend another night together to sort things out, and Jill agrees. They start drinking and end up in bed, but Jill gets scared by the coldness of Nika's iron leg. He apologizes for not warning her and tries to kiss Jill again, but she doesn't want to continue. Then Horus takes control through Nika and forcibly takes her. The next day, Jill goes to the inclusion zone, now covered in snow and ice. She meets John, who tells her that the zone will close tomorrow and reappear somewhere else in the universe, allowing Jill to stay on Earth permanently. She tells John about meeting a man, and he's thrilled for her new life among humans. John says desires, passions, and love are some of the most beautiful things. Jill confesses she only loves John, but he explains that love on Earth is different. Back at the hotel, Nika Paul is worried about Jill and demands Horus tell him where she is. Horus says she went for a walk, but that doesn't satisfy Nika. Nika punches Horus, who doesn't feel pain. Horus says Jill will return, and they'll make love again. Nika doesn't get why Horus is so keen on impregnating Jill. Horus reveals that he's a prisoner of fleeting time, but doesn't explain further. Elma Turner shows up at the bar where Nika and Jill met. She asks the bartender if he's seen a girl with blue hair and pale skin, but he doesn't know her. John appears, and Elma asks for help finding Jill, but John says it's not necessary and leaves. Elma is puzzled and heads out, but Inspector Frobin calls her, wanting to find Jill to get to Nika Paul. The senator hands over Nika's leg and orders to find and destroy him. At the hotel, Nika is pinned to the wall while Jill regains consciousness in the bath, where the water has turned blue from her tears. Horus eventually lets Nika go, and he goes to Jill. Nika apologizes for his split personality and helps Jill stand. Her tears are tough to clean off human skin, but Nika doesn't mind. They end up in bed again. The next morning, Horus exits Nika's body and thanks him for helping conceive the child. Jill is still asleep, and Horus tells Nika that women like Jill are extremely rare in the universe. Only a few have the gift of bearing a child from the gods. Later, a huge red Dyak breaks into the hotel through the plumbing and heads toward Jill and Nika. Just then, a flying car crashes into their room with John driving. They manage to escape from the monster. The police, Inspector Frobin and Elma arrive at the hotel, realizing Nika and Jill have escaped. They give chase, and the Dyak continues hunting them. Before entering the inclusion zone, John stops. Nika reminds them he's mortal and can't go in. John points out that he's not mortal because Horus is inside him. They lose their pursuers, and John takes them to the heart of the inclusion zone. He gives Jill a red pill that turns her into a fully earthly woman, erasing her memory of the past and then disappears forever. Meanwhile, the senator goes to the pyramid for negotiations with the gods. As soon as he touches it, the pyramid sucks him in and spits him out into the inclusion zone. Nicopol watches Jill suffering when suddenly, the hunter appears behind him. He calls for Horus's help, and Horus emerges from Nika's body to destroy the monster. Anubis and Bast then inform Horus that his time is almost up. Horus asks for a little more time and leaves a divine particle in Nicopol to help him cope with the metallic leg. Horus then returns to the pyramid, which vanishes from the view of New York City. Soon, Jill's memory is wiped and she doesn't recognize Nicopol. After coming back from the zone, Nika gets arrested again since his sentence was only up a year later. A year later, the inclusion zone opens to the public. Nika is released and gets in touch with Elma, who helps him find Jill. He meets her, and they see her blue-haired child transforming into a falcon. They get to know each other again. What do you think will happen to the divine child? Share your thoughts in the comments, hit the like button, and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.